Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Truth or Trend, a holistic breakdown with Dr. Verzal and myself. We are here to remove all the obstacles we can from your healing. And we're talking about all the big blocks, right? We talk about sleep, we talk about nutrition, we talk about exercise, we talk about what is the thing that is keeping you from becoming who you want to be more than anything else. And today, Dr. V and I have a very special guest because we're going to talk about one of the biggest obstacles that I think that Dr. V and I both come across in our years. It's what other people, the limits that other people have put on you, but what can be healed and what can't be healed. That is one of the biggest pieces that we're constantly examining. And as we want to be able to share this with you and share with everybody, all your patients, all the practitioners out there, even for yourselves, it's amazing how many times I'll talk to a very progressive and intelligent practitioner who is still accepting a limit that was passed on to them by somebody of medical authority without questioning it. And so today we want to shatter that. We want to bust through the roof. We want to remove all of those limits and make sure that everybody really keeps asking better questions to find what can be done. And what better way for us to do that, Dr. V, than with our friend Trent Fielder, who is going to be with us today. This is his website, Try Hope. He came and he spoke to all the practitioners at our seminar, filled everybody with hope. And his story is one that everybody should hear, especially if you're dealing with any type of health condition. So without further ado, actually, we have two guests today. We've got Gunnar, his dog, the author of this book, and we have Trent Fielder. So come on in, Trent. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, let's blow the roof off.
Exactly. So where do we begin? Dr. V, do you have any? I mean, you were just telling a story, right, of somebody who experienced, somebody very close to you who just experienced a severe injury, where a lot of people would just be almost hopeless, right? Because there's so much damage to that person, but you know better. You know that the ability to heal somebody is almost limitless when it comes to that. So
yeah, and I mean, as you were doing the intro, I was thinking of all these patients I've had that have diabetes. They're told this is the way it's going to be. Cancer, unfortunately, is almost 50% of the population. I mean, cancer is running amok, and people get told this is the way it is, and even their care is just trying to slow things down. They're not even looking at curing it. So Trent, how did you end up in the predicament you were? How did you get there?
Okay. Well, I try to preface people ahead of time that there's really no Cliff Notes version of what happened to me, but I'll do my best. So in 2011, I was a brand new father of twins, my son and my daughter, and about 7 months into them after they were born, I started experiencing some problems with mobility. And I didn't think much about it other than the fact that I was really tired. Parenting does that to you. And I was working full time. I was working nonstop. So I kind of wrote it off, but it all came on suddenly. And then
I'm just going to share this as you're talking. Keep talking, because sure, it's on his website.
Yeah,
Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? That's something that a lot of people maybe think that there's absolutely nothing that can be done about. So just sorry to interrupt. No. Just going to throw some images up here once in a while, everybody.
Yeah. So I ended up in the hospital. The day before, I was trying to drive home from work. I was trying to actually just drive in general, and I couldn't negotiate the pedals, and half my job was driving. So I knew that was probably a problem. Went home, told my wife, I was like, I think I'm just tired. She's like, I'm not tired. You need to go to the doctor. I was like, I'm just tired. Let me get up the next morning and go about my day. I went in to go get a CT scan done, and went through the big metal doors for the X-ray. Trying to do this with video. The X-ray, and massive door, could have fit probably 6 people, and I ran into the wall. Like, oh, that's probably a coordination issue. But through the course of the exam and everything, I seemed like I was fine. I was just laying there, and then they said, "Okay, well, you can get up and go," and I couldn't. And
basically, we didn't see anything on the X-ray, so you're crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and
you're just exhausted.
Yeah, and I was like, there's something wrong. I could move my neck, kind of, but that was about it. And so EMS came and they got me, and they were taking me over to the hospital. And the first thing I really remember was them. I had broken my ankle trying to install a fan for my son's room, and had a boot on and had a particular shoe on and everything. And the the paramedic ripped it off, and I felt nothing. And I was like, well, that's another problem. So I ended up in the emergency room, and through the course of spinal taps and X-rays and everything else, and I'm gradually getting to the point where I can't even move my neck very well. They came in and they asked me if I'd ever heard of Guillain-Barré, and I my first response was, and I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck, is that another doctor in the hospital?
Right.
And so I got that kind of okay, clearly you're going to need to be some education. And so they started talking to me about it, and I'm just like, these are big words, this is kind of beyond me.
Right.
But I was more of like, well, what kind of trouble am I in? And they're like, most doctors go through their entire career and never see this.
Yeah.
And I found out later that apparently on the neurological boards that year, the trick question was my disease. I was like, well, that's but basically what happens is that I was having an autoimmune viral response that nobody's still to this day is really clear on what's going on or how it occurs. They just have theories. And my body was shutting down. So my body had just decided that it was, attacking itself. And so it was paralyzing me, very, very quickly. I had lost sensation. It reached a point where it was getting up to my lungs. They wanted to put me on a vent or on a trach. And I was like, this is all happening too fast. So,
right.
Anyway, went through ER.
So you had some wisdom up front that there's got to be a better way.
Well, I don't know if it was fear, definitely, but sometimes fear can lead to the greatest wisdom. So I just like there's got to be another way around this. That put a hole in my throat. And so I ended up I was in the emergency room, and then they put me in the ICU, and I was really starting to kind of grasp the fact I've got something really rare here, because I encountered, I think, 7 different neurologists, and every one of them pronounced it a different way. This is not good,
Yeah.
I get it's a hard pronouncement, but not that hard. And so they reached a point where like, we don't know what to do with you. And I didn't get what considered as the right treatment in the very beginning. Again, there was kind of back and forth as to whether this is going to help or not. So put me in a rehab hospital. I was there for a couple of months, and still really just didn't have much movement. So I could
with
move.
New twins at home. Twins at home, and you're in a rehab hospital for months.
I know, yeah. Well, and the benefit of that was, my wife would bring the kids in, and while they were learning to walk, so was I. So wow, beautiful videos and beautiful moments of my son, learning. They're putting me on a big medicine ball and rolling me around, and they put him on one too, and trying to get some movement. But it shattered everything. It was just every plan we had for my life was completely turned upside down. So the plan was me work, my wife stay home with the kids. And suddenly,
were you an athlete prior to that?
No, that was kind of the comical part about how the whole story is I didn't become an athlete until after I was paralyzed. So spent months trying to figure out what was going on. I talked to more and more doctors. I saw specialists from all over the world. Nobody could give me a clear answer as to what to do. It was just, there was kind of this consistent opinion of that was it. It was like at some point they didn't know what else to say. They just kind of rolled their shoulders like, we don't know how to help you. So it evolved into about 10 months in, I started going downhill again. And so they diagnosed me with, again, more testing, more hospitalization, more rehab, diagnosed me with chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which is good for a triple word Scrabble score, but that's so I'm navigating two diseases that are very difficult to pronounce. Figure out what to do, but there's no clear blueprint except medicine. Just let's throw this at it, and see what sticks. And after a couple of years, I eventually, the pain that I was in, because when my body restarted from the paralysis, because I didn't really kind of get the proper treatment at the time, it restarted like an old car battery. And I was in constant pain. It was just spasticity nonstop. It's like my neck would snap itself. Very little that I could really manage on a daily basis. And being a young,
real quick, just as a life lesson thing, what would you say was your first warning sign that something was? I mean, yes, you ended up in the hospital, you couldn't get out of bed, but years before, what was? I know you talked about fatigue, and that's a very common symptom that everybody talks about. What were some of the early warning signs that maybe you missed or could have started earlier intervention?
I think for people in general, we ignore fatigue.
Right.
So especially if you're
American.
yeah, especially American. But if we're hard pressed or pushing, especially if we have a family, if we've got commitments and things like that, we'll look at fatigue as an obstacle as opposed to maybe
A message.
the message.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. I mean, I was going 16, 18 hours a day on a good day. And again, parenting little ones, trying to be a husband and provider. And I think that was probably the biggest one. The other ones, were a little bit out of my depth, but I knew I was tired all the time and tired well out of anything that was normal before. So,
did you have physical aches and pain, low back pains, or?
Yeah, my lower back, low and mid back started, especially when I started having more mobility issues. That was a big problem. And, but I spent so much time, looking under cars and, heavy lifting and things like that. I just, it's like, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Maybe this is the answer. But I just did that same problem, especially I think men were very good at dismissing. And I was dismissing everything. Every single thing I was doing. I mean, right up to the day before I was paralyzed. Just telling my wife, I'm just tired. And I think fatigue is such, it really, a lot of times it's the first indicator, to a bigger problem. And really important not to be.
Well, there's one of our first action points, right? Is listen to what our body's trying to tell us. And that's really the theme of this podcast is every ache and pain, every nuance. I mean, we need to hunker down as you're now a high-end athlete. We're trained to put it aside and just move on, push through it. But every little pain is an indication. Unfortunately, you got a biochemical process, so it's kind of harder to say, oops, I had a shoulder pain or I had an ankle pain. This is the underlying trigger. But so often, we just push on as you were working your 16-hour days, further beating down adrenals, running deficient of, cortisol, adrenaline, that whole get up and go. But then that also inhibits a key pathway in the liver called methylation, which opens the door for these toxic issues and poor recovery of the body, genetic mutations and so on that all take place when that pathway is not working. So you woke up paralyzed. I mean, that's a truth bomb right there. But there was these signs ultimately. Now we have the blessing of looking backwards and trying to learn from it. So you can, as you are doing, inspiring others to learn and try to not get into the now I'm paralyzed state, right? God has used this to really, profoundly change your life and many others. Go ahead.
And hopefully many, many more. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to highlight two things that you talked about. Number one, he did mention a virus early on. And that's something that people don't realize. It may not be the cause or the thing that creates him waking up paralyzed, but it's definitely a contributing factor to depletion in his body. And you and I've talked about depletion before. And this is why proactively, I just want to share with everybody listening, it's March. Every third month of the year, I dedicate to bolstering and fulfilling my immune system. So it has everything it can to reduce any impact from any viral exposures. And this is one of the things that we're doing with Trent right now. We've got him on Conjuplex this month. Okay. So we're bolstering up his immune system so that doesn't create an opportunity, or as you say, a vector to come in and beat him up again and slow it down. The other thing that I wanted to highlight that he said that I love is he talked to experts, specialists from all around the world. Right. And these guys are specialists, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but sometimes when you have somebody who's so specialized in something, they can't see the forest through the trees. So you do need to bring somebody like you or myself or Dr. Truitt, who helped you zoom out and be able to look at all the other pieces as opposed to just this specialization, because you miss the opportunity for healing 1,000 times if you're just focused on one tiny little specialized piece. That's my piece. But
yeah, that's a good point. And I was, going back to signs that I didn't pay attention to or didn't know about. But I think more than that was I've been, and I think a lot of us are accustomed to the idea that, okay, we can have one doctor that's going to know everything. Like we can know a wide depth of information, or all like the expansive piece of it. But if you reach a point where you have a doctor that's kind of going, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. And especially if you have a good communication with your physician, is to say, let's bring in somebody else.
Right.
And let's just take a look at this. And I think there was, to me, I'm trying to think of how the best way to explain it is, I felt like I was getting a wealth of information, but I was really only getting it from one source. And
Right.
that was
One
really
mindset.
right.
Right.
One
And
mindset.
and you know, and we're kind of accustomed to like the idea of, okay, we have one person to handle everything or one person to handle these certain things. And when it comes to health, that's about as diverse as it gets. Our bodies are not meant to have one opinion and one opinion only.
Right, right.
And that was where I learned really quickly, especially after the third issue. And the third paralysis was when my spinal cord was severed. And that one, in hindsight, that was a surgical decision on my part. And it was a surgical decision. And I don't think I've ever actually said this before. I made a decision to try to get away from the pain that I was in that was so drastic. I created much more significant issues for myself. Now, I'm not saying I would have made a different decision had I brought other people in there, but I think I became so wrapped up in the fear of what was actually happening. I narrowed my scope to solve a much bigger problem way too soon. And that was especially over the years, as I kind of look back on what's happened, even, you know, all the wonderful things that have happened since. That was a lesson that I wish I'd known early on. And something that I had, I guess, grown up enough to acknowledge, okay, maybe this one source or these 2 or 3 sources that I had at the time, maybe there's still another way. You know, maybe there is still another potential way before I would go, you know, a more drastic route.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the doctors listening, or, you know, people that are helping others, I mean, basically everything you discuss is a biochemical problem, right? And I mean, they're trying to do an X-ray looking for, you know, mass or, you know, structure or something that's not going to show it. But for the doctors, you know, think biochemical, right? And so you had a biochemical process, lots of pain. Pain's a massive motivator, is our primary motivator. That's the way we're wired. But then you're looking at, a physical, a structural solution to try to get you out of the pain. But it was a biochemical process still at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, lots of big lessons in here, and you know, pearls that are now bigger lessons for you to go out and on this sort of platform and change the world. Keep talking about what you've learned.
Well, good.
I was going to say, can we also tie in, like, at this people are trying to help him, right? They're bringing what their knowledge is, and over the course of this, he wound up on 14 different medications. By the time that he and I met, you were on 14 medications. You want to talk a little bit about that process? Yeah, just a little bit.
So, and it's, you know, again, that there's not. I've got multiple people that are involved in my situation at that point, and everybody's trying to help, but they're trying to, I think. And this is another thing where I kind of discovered was sometimes there might be one thing that can solve multiple problems. And I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with the medical field in some ways, or traditional medical medicine, because you might be given 3 things to solve one problem, or individual stabs at something that might have, you know, connective tissue to it. And whether that's, you know, could be mental health, like depression. You know, I think I was on 3 or 4 different depression medicines. And you know, trying to tackle multiple issues from, you know, PTSD to, you know, the physical trauma to everything else. And in reality, a more condensed form, especially when it's holistic, might be available that solves all those problems. You know, so I found myself gradually in. I just had, I mean, it was just like I had my own little mariachi band of pill boxes. And it becomes overwhelming. It's like, you know, you get 1 or 2, you're like, you can deal with it, but then suddenly, you know, I got more text messages, I think, from Kroger renewing my medicines than I did for my wife throughout the day. And you realize this is not the way. There has to be another way. And because of the pain that I was still in, because the surgery to my spine didn't solve anything, just created new problems. I had a Baxlin pump, so I had a pump in my stomach that was feeding medicine to my spine. I had Baxlin and fentanyl in it. And then I had, I was getting IVIG treatments, which to the uninitiated, that's intravenous immunoglobulin, trying to give my body something else to attack, because I did still have these 2 active autoimmune issues. You know, my body was still at war with itself. But it really was just kind of one day I was looking at all these medicines while I had a tube in my chest, while at the same time hearing a pump going off my stomach. I'm just like, what am I doing?
Right.
And that there had to be a change. There had to be a different way, but I still had no blueprint, no clear blueprint. I just had ideas. And
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you had these, like, something's not right in this picture. I mean, I was kind of looking for what was the big turning point for you, but it sounded like you had it. You just didn't know where to go,
yeah,
ultimately, huh? Or
yeah.
for quite
And
a
it was,
while.
and I, by that point I had, so 2016 was when it really kind of a turning point where I saw no movement from the chest down. And my daughter, we have a very, very faithful family. My daughter said a prayer that changed everything. And she prayed for her daddy to get better, for her daddy to feel better. And 2 days later, which was January 4th of 2016, I was in the water and my physical therapist was on my side. She's in the water with me and my hips moved. And suddenly it was like, we didn't do anything else that was different. we got something else going on here. And so that kind of it was gangbusters after that. It's like, okay, well, if they can do that, what can we do next? And so it evolved into, trying to find out other opportunities. And I was introduced to an organization called the Adaptive Training Foundation in Dallas that's run by an ex-NFL linebacker who had a chance conversation with a quadruple amputee veteran and created a program to train people with traumatic injuries, illnesses, veterans, first responders. And that was where I started to get introduced to the natural side of things.
Okay. 5 years later. So you've
right.
been looking for medical solutions for 5 years at this point, basically dysfunctional with now 5-year-old twins.
Yeah. But that opportunity opened a door for me mentally, where suddenly I was hearing all these other words, and I was hearing how the chemical processes work and how all these other things can influence your immune system, your biochemical processes. And I was like, all right. I was like, this is the beginning of something. Still no clear blueprint. But not long after that, that's when I met Dr. Truitt. And I'd already started competing in triathlon, but I certainly was not very fast. Definitely not competitive. It was just the finisher medal was but Dr. Truitt introduced me to standard process. And once he did that, and again explaining everything kind of the same way Dustin does, which is you don't feel like everything's over your head, you feel like you're genuinely educated. Suddenly medicine, for lack of a better word, became fun. Now I could take that knowledge and study it and see a real impact. And it wasn't like other, it's not like taking an electrolyte or anything like that. It was just like you saw measurable results immediately. And Dr. Truitt and I, from the very beginning, it was like, I got all these tracking devices I wear, from my Garmin to everything else. My goggles are digital. Like, let's track this. So we started tracking heart rate, blood pressure, intake times, and it was really remarkable to see overnight. So I was like, now we have a path. We have a goal. Let's make the path. And then,
did you have a favorite verse that you were leaning on through all that time?
Yeah.
Thinking all things are possible through he strengthens me, right?
Well, I would say one of my favorite verses has always been 2 Corinthians 12:9-10, which is, it's in our weakness we can know his greatest strength.
There you go.
That one carried me in ways that a lot of other things couldn't, and still does.
Very appropriately applied.
Right. And I have the armor of God, Ephesians 6:10-21 in my house. And that one, I think, especially as men, we start to kind of lose our identity when something like this happens. Like, we focus on what we lost as opposed to what's still there for us.
Right.
So I had to remind myself who I was often.
Right. And now you're the iron sharpening iron.
I try to be as best I can. So I try to not just with the athletics that I do, but with the interactions I have with people like Dustin and yourself, to show people there is a different way. And so we turned 14 plus 2, I guess technically, because I had the pump and the treatments. We turned that into 0.
Zero. For how long now? How long have you been?
0, I would say, is probably about 5 months.
5 months.
Only 5 months.
For 5 months, he's been on 0. Yeah, that's pretty good.
We had to wean off a little bit because
and how much better, right?
Yeah.
Well, and how much better do you feel with compared to 6 months ago when you were on 16 different things?
It's again, we weaned off, which was still a good approach, but it's been amazing because I do triathlon, obviously, and I've done national championships and world championships, stuff like that. but more of my focus has been recently on long distance swimming. And being able to see that, especially when you incorporate things like B core and E2 and things like that into my system, it gives you more of those concrete results. There's no way to deny it. It's like I have raw data, active live data of showing how much better I breathe. I went from 16% of my lungs to having almost full functionality now, and that didn't happen at all.
Breathing's kind of important.
Details, especially underwater. Maybe that's where it's like people learn how to breathe a little bit better,
right?
But
Trying
I
to
used
figure
to be
out how to
able
get
to
some gills.
I'd get winded after 250 yards, maybe 500 yards in the beginning, and now I can swim 25, 30 miles, and then get out of the water and just go about my business.
Right.
And those to me are, again, clear. As I told him a minute ago, and I'm reluctant to say this sometimes, but I hope it comes across the right way. I'm the answer to the problem. I'm the proof that there is an answer that goes beyond maybe the traditional mindset that's very limited. And I hope my story encourages the medical field, doesn't discourage them. I don't want them to sit there and say, "Oh, we've been failing at something for so long," or "We're missing something," because that's not the case. You needed the right maybe incentive or opportunity to add something to it. That's
right.
That's what we're talking about now.
Well, and that's really the theme of our whole podcast ultimately, right? Is we are the answers. Dustin, Dustin had healing isn't passive, it's participatory. I mean, that kind of goes right in with, you took an active role. You spend a season trusting the authorities, but realizing that hey, they're human too.
They have limits.
They may not have all the answers, and they're loving on you as best they can with what the knowledge and the information they have. But the tide has changed. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, doctors used to be held accountable, but now it's like, well, why didn't you get a second opinion? It's like, take responsibility for your demise. So, I mean, it makes, right?
That was how I think part of that process when I realized, especially after the third paralysis, because that was when I flatlined, and kind of waking up from that and kind of like, well, now what do I do? And that was, I had to make a decision. Was I going to continue down the same path I was going, or ultimately lead down exactly where they were telling me I was going? They're like, "We can't do anything with you. You're going to die. We're going to send you home." And so I had to make a decision. The decision was to, if you're not going to be on board for open thinking and really process through this, then I don't need you. Because my goal was to go home to my kids. My goal was to be a better parent, was to be the strongest version of myself I could. I can't do that with people that are narrow focused. And I'm fortunate now. It's like the physicians that I have now that are in my life, especially my primary, that's just godsend. They're 100% cheerleaders on the nutritional focus that I've taken. At some point, probably takes almost as much standard process as I do. And it's just exciting to see, because I'm getting to see that part full time. You're seeing the ones that are just like, fine, get out of my face, but you're seeing more so the ones that are just like, they want to be on board with that change that's occurring. And to be able to see that as a patient is huge, because you feel empowered, not just that your doctor wants to do it, but they're listening to you, and that there's engagement into, hey, there's other options here.
Yeah. So praise God for your daughter's prayer for, kids, having young kids, that carrot. I mean, we definitely could lean into that for the rest of the podcast, but what was that, beacon of hope? I mean, I was kind of, as you're telling that story, I was kind of likening you were in the belly of the fish, like Jonah, you were there for 5 years. Then you got spit out on the shore, okay, now what are you going to do with your life? Right.
And stuck in that mindset of, I can't do this. It can't be done. Until little girl just says, she could have prayed for anything that day, and she prayed. She just said, "Dear God, in this new year, I want my daddy to feel better again. I want my daddy to walk again." Wow, that's it. That was her prayer.
Right.
Just
powerful
hearts and minds of kids.
Yeah, and that whole mindset thing, and you were talking about, that's it. This is all we have. Remember, so patients, people that are listening to this, when you hear that just means that's all that practitioner has available, right?
They reach the end of their knowledge, not the knowledge of this topic, is what I would say.
So they need to keep learning. That practitioner needs to keep learning. But as they recipient, as a patient, you need to keep looking, because the answer's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you appropriately stated it. It's something, unfortunately, it's a defect in our lifestyle. It's something we're doing. We were created in the image of God. We are perfect beings, right? And the body has this amazing ability to heal when we get out of our own way, right? And so, I mean, most of these conditions, Guillain-Barré, and however 6 other people are going to pronounce it,
That's the eighth
ultimately,
version.
is ultimately a toxin issue. Is kind of where I would be looking. What was compromising the mitochondrial function, what put it into this what's now referred to as a cell danger response, where it's not producing properly, which is probably going to be another podcast we'll pull in.
Sure.
But I mean, ultimately, there was warning signs, and in my life, even from a much listening to your story, much meager petty example, but I call it wisdom as I get older, and it's like, oh, I've been here before, I've seen this, I learned to notice the signs much earlier instead of waiting till I can't walk. But I mean, I've had seasons where I had warning for a year and ignored it, and then I'm in a dire situation.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a lot of what we want to learn from this, is that we've got there's always a possibility. I mean, this is limitless. This is ultimately what we're trying to talk about today.
Well, I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday who was asking me questions about it. They were kind of coming from a fear approach of change. And I just, the only thing I could say to them, and I'm glad I said it, that didn't come from me, that was direct from God, was don't let the fear of the unknown overcome the possibility of a better outcome, the possibility of what really can be. And I think that's we're as regimented in kind of old philosophies and old tendencies as a physician or anybody else as a patient. It's like we're used to, we want something that's going to comfort us, and that's going to comfort us immediately, as opposed to what's really necessarily a long-term solution. And I think if more patients and even practitioners that may be afraid of that learning new things part of it, if they'll give themselves that opportunity to say what could be. It's like, if we're stuck here, what else is left to make something what could be? And
well, and it's that mind shift that has not only gotten you back to where you are now, but it continues to grow more and more and more to even higher and higher heights, right? Over the last year, he's actually put on, as an athlete, how much? Tell him.
It's right at about 20 pounds of muscle.
20 pounds of muscle. Getting the nutrition.
It's about 300 miles in a year of swimming. So
yeah,
with the nutrition.
So went from unable to walk, in a bed, basically, right? Unable to, hold your newborns, and feeling like life was over ultimately, right?
Yeah.
But
and a big takeaway I want to talk about is that we continually learn from it. And for those of you who are watching who haven't heard about this yet, this is we don't get sponsored, so I'm going to say today's episode is sponsored by The Headache Advantage. This is a book that Dr. Berzal wrote, and it has been something that helps people learn to, when you find that hope, how do you learn from what your body's telling you so that you can make it into something actionable that actually heals you, that takes you to the next level. And Trent and I constantly are referring to this style of thinking. Well, okay, like you just said earlier, where were you getting this pain? What does that pain mean? How can we take that pain and convert it into something even greater? And I will also say, because we were able to transition off of some mental health medications, one of the big things that really helped was finding a good whole food mushroom. This is the Great Minds mushrooms that he's been taking. They are lion's mane mushrooms with some other elements in it. For those of you out there looking for some options, we're not sponsored, but Dr. Berzal and I sponsor this by ourselves. So those are our sponsorships today, ladies and gentlemen.
And I mean, part of my story's in there too, but I feel almost embarrassed to share it now because it feels so petty compared to your story. It's like, oh, you had headaches. Oh, you were told you're crazy. Yeah, it's a big deal,
But I think, like you're talking about, pain creates a fear response. It just does. And, so we want that fear to go away. And so, again, we tend to gravitate towards the quickest solution as opposed to the best one. And I had to change that in myself. It's like, okay, I had to start telling myself, this is actually not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, Yeah.
But I think it highlights more than anything else. There's always something you can do. There's always the next right thing can do. And even over this journey, we're still identifying more and more things that he can do to improve his health over time. Like you and I are constantly trying to figure out and tweak and move. And that's exciting to me. That's exciting. It's like, it's this whole frontier of discovery and all these different things. But your story is so powerful because it highlights it doesn't matter how close to death you are or already dead.
Already dead.
Sometimes there's the steps that you can take to continue to move forward. Yeah.
To bring the power. Go ahead.
Well, I think, and as much to physicians as it is to patients, it's okay to experience grace. It's okay you don't know everything. It's okay that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try to figure it out. Recognize that you're human, and don't allow yourself to, I guess, wash your hands of a situation just because it's still a work in progress. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had some great conversations with physicians. I have great conversations. I think my kids are kind of tired of me talking about this and stuff. But it's like, let me break out how standard process bottle about let's talk about this. It's like, but at the same time, it's this morning my daughter feels bad, so she goes in and she grabs a couple of bottles and stuff, and
nice.
So yeah, it's
my from the inspiring change perspective, my previous pastor used to talk about the 100-year test. Is this really going to matter 100 years from now, right? And how relevant is it? And it kind of puts things in perspective of how potentially petty our lives could be. But then, we're currently going through the first chapter of Mark and Jesus' healings, and I'm realizing that's not so petty. I mean, Jesus did a couple of healings 2,000 years ago, and that's 2,000 years later impacting my life in a pretty profound way, right? So, I mean, these healings, the changes, the morph in your life can affect millions ultimately. I mean, the healing I had, right? The liberation of headaches is now affected tens of thousands of people, literally. So
how exciting is that?
Right, huh?
Yeah. I mean, every single story you get to hear, it's just like another medal at the finish line. Just like, wow, I did it. I impacted somebody, and they listened, and they benefited from it. It's just
right. So much more powerful than the medal.
Yeah, much and longer lasting. Yeah,
right. Those lives that we touch. So
I think when I decided to go on the venture of becoming an athlete, it was I knew that, and I think the same thing probably what physicians do, and really anybody I think that has even a sense of the kind of an altruistic side of themselves, was I had to make a decision. What's my why? What's my why going to be? And I had to keep my focus on my why. I knew in the very beginning it was just like I need to feel a little bit healthier, but at the same time I want to be able to help other people. And I realized really quick, you're never going to really know what you can do in this life unless you're doing something for somebody else. And it's such a huge part of our God-given nature to help another person. And so we kind of laugh about the medals and stuff I have. I was like, I don't even know. I think my gold medal is on the rack with the other ones, but it's not as important as the stories behind what got me there. People that got me there.
Right.
They put the gold medal around my neck, and I took it and put it around my wife's neck because I know she's been married to me for a long time. She deserves it more than I do.
Right. Yes. I mean, you had a great, I mean, that was the motivating factor, right, for you, was that you had kids that needed you and a wife that needed you. So that helped get you out of the mire, out of the funk that you were stuck in for massive rut that you were in for at least 5 years. And then still took a lot of time, effort, and energy to get out of. So yeah, I mean, so much.
One of the reasons I've enjoyed the journey. So my nonprofit is called Tri-Hope, and that name didn't come from me. It came from my daughter. My daughter actually named it. And I think those are some of the long-lasting memories that I'll have of this are the videos that my kids have been videoed on occasion, talking about our story together, essentially. And they're usually quick videos, but their comments are, I love it when they say, my daddy does this for hope. And it's like, yeah, well, you just can't. I'm good, but it's the message, the same thing we're talking about now. There's generational messages from every part of that journey that we're on. And
and we have to tell the stories, and telling the story, because we're storytellers. Like you said, you're still retelling a story that Mark told 2,000 years ago, right? Because it's about healing. And that's so important. That's one of the biggest reasons we do this. That's why we're so grateful for you and sharing your story. And for those of you who want to hear more of his story, he did write a book as well, from perspective of Gunnar, who's here with us in the studio, called Gunnar Speak. And so it tells his whole story. We have copies of these that we keep here as well, but you can reach out and you can get the whole story, and also help support his nonprofit by getting that story. But speaking of stories, I don't mean to interrupt, guys, but I want to say, Dr. V, I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage everybody who listens and all the people who are helping make this message get out there, because it is having the effect that we want it to have. And I'm going to share a little something with you, Dr. V, that is probably going to get you a little bit clamped, I hope, because this is a message that came through on an episode we did with Dr. Jeff Crippen on GLP-1s. This person writes, been on the fence for over a year on whether or not I should take the medication. I don't necessarily need it, but I want to drop this annoying 10 to 20 pounds that I continuously pick up. Very logical thinker. So going to the internet to try pros and cons, etc., on this medication was very difficult. And as you know, there's nothing but pros all over the advertisements, influencers, and even my own personal friends. I knew that it couldn't be all good, and I need to know the facts before I can make an informative decision. So thank you for laying it all out, because it was kind of scary about the fact I could not find any negatives on this medication. Not for everybody, that's for sure, and it might not be for me. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about it. This helps someone like me who's on the fence. That's exactly what we're here for, to help people. And I love that she lays it out like that, to say, look, that's what I needed, because there's so much advertising. It's overwhelming. I had another person from our last episode where we talked about MitoPure. She said, Dustin, thank you. You saved me $125 because I was going to buy it, right? The advertising convinced me. That's what we're here for, is to help people sift through what it is. But this episode, which I'm loving, is always, we want to put this layer of possibility and the layer of removing other people's limitations from you, and don't let that be your limitation. So other people may have responded to these medications because they accepted limitations on what they could do the natural way. And that's one of the things that I want everybody to take away with this, is that there are solutions in nature. Next week, we're going to talk about the power of the sun, right? That being a big piece that people are missing. And constantly, we're finding ways that we can address this through natural means. And then you get side benefits, multiple benefits, and unlimited ability to continue to grow and become a better athlete, better person, all of the things. So, but Dr. V, I wanted to share that one with you, because that is exactly why we do this. Okay? So those of you listening, please share this message. Please do send it out there. Please let other people know so that they can be encouraged. You may send it to 10 people and only one of them makes a change, but that one person could be Trent, laying there with his twins, ready to decide whether he's going to give up or if he's going to keep trying, right? And that person may not have the prayer of a young child to help bring that focus and attention. So maybe you can be that person. Please share these messages. Please share these videos with people who need to hear this and know that there are possibilities. It's working, Dr. V. Everything we set out to do.
So just kind of as we're concluding, I mean, you had a big name, exotic, kind of rare condition that had you kind of defeated for quite a while. Cancer, diabetes, all these other conditions that people are going to get these limiting beliefs on, and they're told it's the way you were born. It's your genetic profile. It's, when you hear that, know that there's still an answer, regardless, even if you have a bad gene, if you have something that's so-called proven to be, ineffective, epigenetics, there's, so much there. There's always,
my first advice always, for the last 10 years, of anybody who came to me asking about cancer, Dustin, what can we do? What can you do to help me with cancer? I would say, first, you have to find somebody that has a story that's overcome that, so that you can see that it's possible first. Because I can't make you believe it's possible. You need to hear that story of somebody else. And that's really important. So we do need to hear the stories of that there are people that have overcome these things that most people think is a death sentence. And the more you can find those stories and hear those stories, the more your brain's going to open up to the possibilities. And if you don't, then you're not going to take the action steps. If you don't have the belief that it's going to do it, you're not going to do the things that are actually going to heal you. But if you do open up your mind of that, then you can keep taking more and more steps to become the healthiest version, right?
We're all works in progress.
Right.
Until the day we're gone, we're all works in progress.
Right.
100%. We were forever. And from the doctor perspective, for the doctors listening, be humble enough to recognize if you don't have the answer, to keep listening or keep learning. Right.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of what inspires me. I want to be the person that had, the miracle maker in Trent's life, for example. Right. And so I want to have the tools to get to that information. But we need to be humble enough to recognize, hey, if I didn't have the answer, Trent, come back to me and let me know what did work, so that the next time a Trent walks into my office, I will have the answer for them. So, I mean, pride gets in the way pride comes before the fall, right? And so a lot of us want to, if we don't have the answer, it's like, well, it's just you, it's not me, right? So be humble enough to keep learning ultimately.
And enjoy it. Enjoy that part of the journey. Because that's some of the most fun I've had, is just like, wow, this is amazing. It's just like being a kid again, and learn how to ride a bike the first time.
Yeah.
Just like, wow, a whole new world.
And keep having fun. Somebody help you find your blind spots, right? That's what you do for me, Dr. V. That's why we started this, for you to help me see my blind spots every week, right?
Yeah, we keep learning. It's
all right, gentlemen, we got 5 minutes left here, and Dr. V's got to jump. So what last thoughts, Dr. V, do you have for everybody? I mean, you kind of just said them, but anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of where I was. I mean, Trent's story is such a tearjerker, so moving. I mean, we haven't even got into all what he's learned and what he's doing now that's really working.
Right.
So maybe we should do a Trent 2, podcast at some point and talk about about
the athletic performance stacks. Absolutely, because it's a long, big stack. And in fact, next week I won't be able to be staying with you in Seattle for the symposium, because I'm coming back to do the heart sound recording on all of the triathletes that are going to be at the Little Ironman. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, performance. Yes, we want to talk about athletic performance and what they can do, and what we could see in that heart sound that actually helped him to be able to start taking the levels of nutrition that he needed to take to put on that 20 pounds of muscle, to increase your times, right? You're getting faster. You're still getting faster and faster.
It's unreal.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're wrapping up, but I'm technically a T10 paraplegic. So I have no feeling in my legs, but I'm going to run 13 miles in 2 weeks. It's not pretty.
It's easy to run when it doesn't hurt, huh?
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, I have athletes that are angry at me all the time on the run because they get shin splints. I'm like, I don't get them. Right. I mean, maybe I have them, I just don't know it. So yeah, I'm kind of I'm the bane of the
so you can, as you run by them and they're complaining about their shin splints, don't recommend that they stop eating wheat.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Go ahead, lay that out, Dr. V, for them, for the athletes that are listening. Tell them why no wheat.
Wheat causes shin splints ultimately by the effect it has on the adrenal glands. It affects the gallbladder, which also affects the oblique toe-off mechanism. So all those muscles that should be supporting the shin, the foot, during that mechanism, they get inhibited and turned off. What would he be? My nephew that I did a team triathlon with, he was the runner. He's like, but I have some shin splints. We were staying together for the 3 days prior to it. I'm like, you're not allowed to eat wheat. You're not allowed to eat corn until after the race, at least. But yeah, those shin splints, typically adrenal supplementation, adrenal complex, ultimately from an SP perspective, is where I would go for shin splints. But getting the wheat out is the typical trigger. So again, back to summarize what we've been doing on this whole thing, every one of these little aches and pains are nuances. They're signs, early warning signs that, hey, if you don't make a change, you're going to end up, in a bed and paralyzed, or, so.
Anything you want to say to everybody while we got you? Last message?
Please.
I just, again, I try to encourage people that it doesn't really, your circumstances don't define who you are. They just don't. And your every moment in life is an opportunity for an even better. Even the difficult ones, your circumstance, the things that you go through in life, especially the more difficult things in life, they are stepping stones to something greater. You just have to recognize that suffering is just a part of life. It's an unfortunate, it's a sad part of life, as long as you wallow in it. If you allow the things that you're going through to bring you down, then you're missing the opportunity and you're wasting time for a life that is just waiting for you to live. And that's what's been so amazing. I mean, I cry about this all the time. I'm not gonna cry.
Mhm.
I wasted so much time looking for answers in the depths of what I was going through, as opposed to the heights of where I was headed.
Mm.
And it was destroying me. And I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have Nevaeh's prayer. I really don't, because she chose her prayer to be about me. Still stand by this. I say this all the time, is that you will never know how strong you can be until you're doing something for somebody else. So if you're having trouble with your own circumstances, I had trouble with mine. So I couldn't do it for me. When I stopped doing it for me and I did it for my kids, I did it for my wife, I did it for my family and my future, it changed everything. So in your own life, if you're having a hard time getting past something because you're stuck in what you think you've lost or what you're going through, immediately do something for somebody else. It doesn't have to be a marathon or triathlon or Team USA, anything. It can be buy somebody a meal in a drive-through. Start there, make it a healthy one. But buy something for somebody, do something for somebody else, and then soak in that, I'd say that vitamin D, soak in that sun feeling inside you to know, wow, I stepped outside of myself for a minute and look at what I was able to do. I just think it's proven true day in, day out. I will never do anything of what I do for medals. I don't care about the medal. You can keep it if you want. But I will do it if I know that somebody is waiting there at the finish line, waiting to either hear my story or waiting to tell me, or waiting to tell me theirs. So it's just, my life is so much more rich now. And a big part of that was stepping out of myself.
That's it. Tell your story.
My life verse was Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more important than yourselves. You just summarized it right there.
So much wisdom in that book.
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being with us. And if you want to hear more about these athletic stacks that Dr. V and Trent and the things that we've been able to integrate to maximize their athletic potential, give them possibly an unfair competitive advantage, let's be honest. Leave a message down before. It's all legal. It's all legal. Leave us a message. If you want to hear more about that, we'll do a whole episode on that. But drop it in there. Ask your questions. We'll be here to answer them. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next week when the next episode comes out.
Take care of it.